The Mecklenburg County election debates are a service of WTVI, Mecklenburg County, and the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. The views and opinions expressed in these debates are those of the candidates and do not necessarily represent the views of WTVI, its management, Mecklenburg County, or the League of Women Voters.
Hello, I'm Sean Flynn, Managing Editor with News 14 Carolina. In the next 15 minutes, we'll speak with the two candidates, Republican candidates, who are running for Mecklenburg County Commission seat district in District 6. Now, this district is located in the far southern section of the county. Now, going over the format real quick, all these questions come from the League of Women Voters, and the candidates have not heard or seen them in advance. Each candidate has 60 seconds to answer the question. Each of you does have a yellow card, and that is a challenge card. You can use that twice, and you can get a 30-second challenge to your opponent's response. Now, let's go ahead and meet the two candidates for the District 6 seat. The first candidate to my right is Republican challenger Ed Driggs, and to my left is incumbent Commissioner Bill James. Now, Mr. James, we'll go ahead and start with you. You have been called a maverick on the commission. Do you agree with this, and has it helped or hurt your district over the years?
I think it's helped me because I've been able to carve out an independent role on the county commission, and I've been able to stand up for the people of District 6. And because I've been independent, I think I've actually been able to change some votes that otherwise would have gone the other way. For example, the Ballantine dump. Ballantine dump was going to occur, 8 to 1 vote. I was the one lone no vote, organized opposition to it, got it changed, and we ended up with a unanimous vote the other way to eliminate that expansion of the dump. So I'm an independent character, but I'm still a Republican, and I follow Republican rules, and I vote with the Republican majority virtually all the time.
Okay. Mr. Driggs?
Sorry, I held up the yellow card.
Okay. Well, I was coming to you right now if you for a question, but if you'd like to go ahead and use one of your challenges, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
I'd like to say that Commissioner James has a reputation for inflammatory and confrontational rhetoric, which I believe is not helpful to the people of District 6. I don't think it represents good leadership. I think the animosity that it creates is unproductive at a time when we have very important and serious issues facing Mecklenburg County and our district. And my goal would be to introduce more civility and common sense to the government of Mecklenburg County.
Okay. Well, I'm going to follow up with a question to you that's somewhat related, but your opponent here has served the district for about a decade and a half, has been reelected. Why now? Why do you think you need to unseat him?
I've actually wanted to challenge him for some time. This opportunity presents itself because my children are away at school right now, at the college. They both were in CMS schools. They went through Myers Park High School, and when my daughter went away to college, I felt that I was free to take on this challenge, and it is a challenge to confront an incumbent. The odds are overwhelming against, but I really felt the lapses of leadership in District 6 and in Mecklenburg County warranted action. I feel that if you look at the tax increase that we had, if you look at the school closings, the library closings, the lack of construction of schools, the disastrous revaluation, there have been numerous failures of leadership that I feel need to be rectified.
All right, Mr. James, I see that you have your challenge card up. You got 30 seconds.
Real quickly, here's the deal. I don't deny that I'm a very blunt-spoken individual, but I also am committed to being a conservative Republican. My opponent, for all his desire to run, he moved here in 2002, never voted in a Republican primary. Now, to me, that shows a lack of commitment. He may have wanted to run against me, but in all those elections over the last 10 years, he was AWOL during Republican Party primaries, didn't even show up to vote.
Okay. Moving on to the next issue question. There is talk about the Ballantine area and southern portions of Charlotte creating its own city. Is this a good idea? Why or why not? And actually, this time we'll start with Mr. Driggs.
I think it is a good idea. As a resident of South Charlotte, I think a situation has arisen where there is too big a separation between the majority on the bodies of government in Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte and in CMS as well, in the school board. And that is the impetus behind this. However, I will say that as a county commissioner, I don't feel it's my job to adjudicate this matter. I think this is something that the citizens of South Charlotte need to take up with the city of Charlotte and the state of North Carolina. And there is, if anything, an advisory role for a commissioner.
All right, Mr. James.
Well, I guess there is a little bit of a difference there. Since I'm the guy that wrote the email that started the whole discussion about the town of Ballantyne about 6 or 8 months ago, I firmly believe that there is a leadership role that I could play, whoever is on the commission from District 6. By showing some sense of leadership, we can go ahead and we can aggressively go to the state. City doesn't need to be involved in this. I know they want to be because they don't want the de-annexation to occur. I do, and I think most of the citizens do. It would cut their taxes by about 40%, just assuming you take the Matthewstown rate, for example, and apply it to that area below McAlpine Creek, which is basically south of 51. I think it's a good idea. I started the discussion and the debate, and I'm proud of the fact that it was my electronic newsletter that started it in the first place and got the ball rolling.
All right. Another big issue for this election is education, as it is every election. Now, the Board of County Commissioners doesn't really make education decisions, but they do hold some purse strings. CMS has asked for an additional $27.5 million, primarily to fund a 3% pay raise for teachers. Do you support this increase? If yes, how would you pay for it? If not, please explain why. Mr. James?
I do not support the increase, and specifically, I don't support it because last June, when we had this discussion about how much CMS was going to need, CMS came to us, whined and complained that they had to have this extra money. Turns out they had 20 million, 25, 30 million left over from the state that they hid from us. They delayed their vote on disclosing this extra money until the day after the county commission took our vote. In essence, they lied to us. And I'm not a proponent of that. I think they should give the teachers the raises they need, but they can do it with the money, extra money we gave them last year. I do not believe we need to raise taxes, and I do not believe we need to increase their line item. They've got enough money as it is. They do not need any more.
All right. Mr. Jiggs, same question to you.
I would not support an increase of funding for CMS if it involved any kind of a tax increase. There can be no question of a tax increase. However, I do have a better track record of being supportive of the schools than my opponent does. I'm on the Board of Communities and Schools, and I'm on the CPCC President's Council. I'm very concerned about the problems of CMS, and I think it's the job of the county commissioners to hold the school board accountable for improvements in the performance of CMS. The graduation rates are too low. The academic credentials of the schools that do graduate are too poor. So if money is to be allocated, it would have to be found in other places in the budget where there is waste and inefficiency right now.
All right, let's move on to another very controversial issue that's been going on this year. We're talking revaluation. More than 40,000 residents of Mecklenburg County filed an appeal. 10,000 of those filed an additional appeal. What is your thought process on what happened this past year, specifically since the revaluation process hit a lot of the residents of District 6 really hard? Do you think it's fair, or how should it be changed? Mr. Driggs, we'll start with you.
I think the whole process, frankly, was a bit of a disaster, and I've been hearing about this during my months of campaigning as I go from door to door and talk to homeowners who are unhappy about the revaluation of their homes. It's basically a procedure that's established by the state, but the fundamental defects were that we had an unsettled market, they didn't want to go ahead with the valuation, and then finally the time limit ran out, the 8-year time limit in which they had to perform it. They didn't make suitable adjustments to the way they did the revaluation because of the unsettled market conditions. And the result was a mess. They used computerized models and aerial photography to try to come up with valuations for homes that were way out of line with what many people knew from appraisals and for recent transactions were absolutely not right. The approval process itself was a nightmare. Most of the initial applications for a review were rejected out of hand. If people wanted to be seen in person, they could wait all day. So we need to come up with a better procedure, do the valuation again, and we need to have a better appeal process. Thank you.
All right, Mr. James, to you.
Revaluation is totally screwed up. There's no other nicer way to put it than that. I think that, as a matter of fact, I put it on the agenda about a month ago to try to have a do-over because I think that the way it's been handled has just been a disaster at many levels. But the other thing is that I know that Karen Bentley, I think today, put it on the agenda, and I co-sponsored that as well. So it's going to be on the County Commission agenda on the 1st. The process for why revaluation failed is that they use something called a mass appraisal system. Mass appraisal system ignores foreclosures, it ignores bank-owned real estate. It doesn't allow for the normal fair market value give and take that you would normally have in any kind of realtor report or report done by an MAI. The only way to fix it, I think, is a do-over. That's actually going to be on the agenda for May 1st, and I intend on supporting it.
All right, moving on to mass transit. Obviously, that's specifically a city issue that they typically deal with. But what are your thoughts on the current plan, specifically rail? We're talking the expansion of the light rail line and the north rail, north quarter line in terms of the county supporting that. Mr. James?
Well, look, I was opposed to the original transit tax. I guess I've been around long enough that I was actually involved in that, and I opposed it at the time. Charlotte does not have the density, that is the number of people per square mile in and around the rail line, to make it worthwhile. At the time, there was an economic argument that said, well, you know, we should do it because you build it and then the development will come. And that was, I think, Mr. McCrory's position at the time. I was highly opposed to it. I thought it was a boondoggle. I still think it's a boondoggle. It's one of those things where, you know, other cities have it, so why don't we? That's no reason to spend a couple of $1 billion. The original plan was flawed. I think this plan is flawed. I don't think it's going to work. I think we'd be better off if we just stopped. But as you point out, it's a city issue, not a county issue. But nonetheless, if you're asking my opinion, I think we should quit while we're behind.
All right, Mr. Driggs, same question to you on transportation.
My experience from conversations with voters over the last few months is this is a real lightning rod issue. I think there is certainly a problem that these projects have been pursued as kind of trophies, legacy issues, for the benefit of politicians and perhaps some of the commercial interests that have profited from them. It's a real affront when you see something like a proposed city tax increase of 9%, a big chunk of which is slated for the trolley. People down in District 6 have absolutely no sympathy with the idea of paying more money for the trolley project. The Brew Line also created a lot of controversy because it was done too early. Per rider costs are too high. I agree with Commissioner James. The density is not there to support it. There is a time and a place for mass transit, but recognizing when that is and when the money needs to be appropriated is something that has to be disciplined. I feel that my abilities as a financial analyst and an economist enable me to recognize better than my opponent when the right time is to undertake something like that.
All right, we are running out of time right now, but real quick, in about 15 seconds, what are your top 3 priorities specifically for District 6 if you're elected?
To deal with the issues that the District 6 voters right now are confronted with, the Ballantyne issue, the school separation issue, the breakup of CMS, and always the taxes.
All right, Mr. James, 15 seconds.
I want to lower taxes by 10 cents, assuming we have enough like-minded individuals on the commission. I'd like to split CMS into a northern, southern, and central system. I'd like to form the town of Ballantyne or Providence. And I'd like to fix revaluation.
All right, very good. Now each of you has 30 seconds to say why the voters should vote for you. Mr. James, we start with you.
Oh, thank you. I believe that we're in a position in 2012 where now's not the time to jump ship. We have Jim Pendergraft leaving, we have Jennifer Roberts leaving, we have Neil Cooksey leaving. The reality is that I think I'm the best guy for the job for this election. I also believe that I am a Republican, and I do not believe my opponent is. If he was, he would have voted over the last 10 years. I think he is the former chair of WTVI, where we're recording this, and I think that is evidence that he's a liberal.
Okay, Mr. Driggs, 30 seconds for you.
Liberal, liberal, liberal. Don't believe it. This is not about how conservative he is or how conservative I am. This is about effectiveness versus not effectiveness. Why does Commissioner James not have endorsements from public officials, past and present? I'm very pleased to announce right now that I've received an endorsement from Neil Cooksey, a sitting county commissioner from District 5 and a distinguished Republican. I also have an endorsement from George Fowler, the mayor of Pineville, not to mention numerous other ones that you can see on my website. I believe that in terms of leadership, the best bet is to try something new. After 15 years, Mr. James has become a poster boy for term limits, and I will bring new leadership to District 6 in Mecklenburg County. Thank you.
Okay. And I want to thank both of you for participating in this debate. I want to thank all of you for watching this debate for County Commission District 6. Do not forget to vote on Tuesday, May 8th. And for more information on the candidates and issues, go to charlottevotes.us. Thanks for watching.